Well, hello there, Retro PC Durham. It's Chris here with another video, and we've got this Acer Aspire 1640 laptop that I've been working on for a while, trying to get it up and running with Windows 10. And unfortunately, I was not successful the way I wanted it to be. But we're going to take a look at it anyway, just to keep it in the history books here. So take a look at this unit here, pretty clean top. I want to note a couple things on here. So there was damage to the hinges, or the plastic around the hinges. You can see here, right? You can clearly see the screws and everything in there. Some of this stuff was loose and damaged, and I did manage to get it all glued back in, and it's secure on this side as well. But the plastics you can see here are in really bad. They're in really bad shape. So there's not much I could do about that, short of disassembling everything plugged in and glued into the top of the frame here, and like melting some metal mesh or something into this to kind of secure it back into place. But there's literally, I don't even think that there's enough room to do that with how tight it is on this corner here with the hinge assembly. So even as it is with the little bit of glue that I used, you can see how it's still stiffed out and bunched out a little bit. So it still opens and closes. It opens and closes fine now, but unfortunately, that's not great. Anyway, so we'll take a look at the back here. We got our Kensington lock, battery. We've got our VGA port and a power port. Flip over to the side here. We've got exhaust for our CPU. We've got COM ports. So we've got a Ethernet port and a 56K modem port. Yeah, it's that age. There is a blank here for an S-Video port, which doesn't exist on this system. We've got a pair of USB ports, PCM CIA card slot, which again isn't on the system. Another blank here. There's a little plastic nub here that can pop out, and that would be for a mini Firewire 1394 slot, which again isn't on this system board. Stereo speakers, audio ports, indicator lights for our power, our battery, our Bluetooth, and our Wi-Fi. And then depending on if the OS has it, these are kind of like soft on, soft off for both of those antennas. And then there's a blank here for something, and I can't quite tell what that, I don't know if you can see that symbol, what that symbol looks like. I don't know what that is, if that's like a switch between like, to swap between like, I don't know what it is. Like it's a blank where there would have been a port there, and I'm not sure, maybe that's infrared. There might have been an infrared port or something on the front of this system, which isn't included as well. I'm not sure. And then on this side here, we've just got our optical drive, which is a DVD burner. Flipping open the system, or I'll take a look at the bottom first. You can see the bottom there. Don't steal my Windows XP. We've got the bottom here. Nice big doors here to access your memory and the modem card. The hard drive slot here, which is for an IDE hard drive, and then a big spot here where we can get access to the CPU. Actually, just with this panel removed, we could access the CPU, and I was able to redo the thermal paste and everything without having to take the whole machine apart. When I had first got it, before I did take the whole machine apart to do the screen. Anyways, flip it open here. Opens up pretty cleanly, right? The hinge works fine now, but again, those plastics are pretty bad on the back. So keyboard, touchpad, all that stuff works fine. We've got some more indicator lights for keyboard settings, right? Caps lock and scroll lock and all that stuff. And then the other part that was damaged on the screen here, I'll just flip it over, was this. You can see here this part was cracked off. So I did glue that back together and let that seal, and then tried to rub it down a little bit with some magic eraser, but there's still a little bit of marking there where it kind of, crazy glue kind of stains plastic sometimes, so that's really not going to change very much. Yeah, so here's the unit. We're going to power it up and see what I have installed. All right, let's see what happens when we power this puppy up. Screen is in pretty good condition. There's a hot spot here and a hot spot here. I refer to hot spots as when the screen's kind of got a little bit of a darkening or a brightening from what else is going on. And you can't always see it depending on what color the screen is. You may call it something different. I'm not sure if that's in correct industry standard terminology to call them hotspots, but it's not exactly a burnt pixel. It's more like a bruising on the screen. Anyways, we see Windows XP Professional being loaded on here. So that would be the original operating system that this computer came with. The processor that's on here, is capable of running Windows 10. Unfortunately, I could only get it up to version 1709. Anything after that was throwing out IRQ less than equal errors, which sometimes comes up as like a bad memory error, but both memory sticks in this system are fully tested and are working fine. So I think it's more likely that there is a processor instruction or memory instruction in the processor and the memory controller that is not compatible with any later versions of Windows. As you may or may not be aware, even though Windows 10 is Windows 10, it has changed over its time from its initial release. And new instruction sets on processors have been added, we'll say, to the core operating system in Windows 10 to take better advantage for performance. And some support for older processors that may not have those instructions has been written out. So as a basic example, to first off get Windows 10 running on a system, the processor has to have an X bit, right? So that execute bit disabled functionality. There are other instructions on your processor that have been added over time, that Windows has added over time. And I think that was just a case that this processor just didn't have whatever that thing was that was added in between 1709 and 1803 that is not allowing it to work. So again, I tried just flat out installing from 20H all the way down, and it took me to get down all the way to 1709 before it would actually install. And I could not get any upgrades to work. The multiple different ways you can try to force a Windows update and a version update, none of them were working. So system-wise, it's this Pentium M778. So it's a single-core, single-threaded processor, which, granted, on Windows 10 wasn't that great, but it was working. And I did have 2 gig of RAM installed on this. It's DDR2 memory, but unfortunately also this system board, which doesn't have any new BIOS options available from what's on it right now, the maximum amount of memory it will support is 2 1 gig sticks. So I couldn't even get 3 or 4 gig installed in this to be able to give the system a little bit of a better chance to run Windows. Unfortunately, it did run Windows again, as I said, and it ran it fine. It was slow, obviously. I'm used to dealing with these machines running Windows slowly, and you have to be a little bit patient with it, but it did work. Unfortunately, not being able to upgrade past 1709, which is technically a no longer supported version of Windows 10, wasn't something that I was going to be going out to donate. So as opposed to just leaving it the way it was that way, I decided let's go back and let's go back to original stack on this one and get Windows XP loaded on this one, which is actually running very well on a 1.6 gigahertz Pentium M778 with 2 gig of RAM and a 40 gig hard drive. Works very well. Graphics wise on this one, it's just the basic type of video adapter you would expect on a system like this one. It's a GMA 9000, so not a ton of functionality or capability. This wouldn't be a gaming laptop in any stretch of the imagination, but definitely fully functional for goofing around on Windows XP and using as just a simple browsing laptop or something where you're not going to be putting any of your own credentials. Because obviously, if you're going to go on the internet with a system like this, you could be vulnerable to some hacks. So you don't want to be putting this on a network share on your home network. You don't want to be putting any of your own credentials on it. So, have something that's just for fun browsing, or just keep it offline. But in the case of that, I did install things like MyPal, which is a good Windows XP browser. It's a fork of Pale Moon, which is a fork of Firefox, I believe. So that works. And it's still kept up to date. We have VLC OpenOffice version 4.1.8, which is the last version of OpenOffice that's supported on Windows XP. I put Image Burn on here for doing some burning stuff, and then Panda Dome, Normally I would put AVG. There's a version of AVG that still receives security updates and works with Windows XP. It wouldn't install on this system for some reason. So I went and did PandaDome instead, which is kind of like a cloud-based antivirus service. So the client doesn't ever need to be updated, but it does need to have, obviously, internet connectivity to be able to do any type of updates and managing of the system. But anyways, the system works fine, does everything that you would need it to do, possibly as an offline system. I wouldn't say this is the most ideal system. If I was looking for an offline, older laptop to do typing or something on, I'd probably be looking for an older generation ThinkPad to get a nicer keyboard. But the screen is nice and big. Maybe if you wanted a system to be able to sit and watch some DVD movies or something in a spare room, and like I said, if you want to do some incognito web browsing or something, not connected to your network shares, could be useful for that as well. It's up and running, it's working, battery's dead, and that screen cracking on the plastic makes it something that's not going to be taken to the coffee shop, but you probably don't want to take something like this to the coffee shop as well. It's probably not the right type of bespoke. Anyways, thanks very much for checking this out. I hope you enjoyed taking a look down memory lane. If you've got one of these Acer Aspire 1640s, let me know if you're still using it, and if maybe you had more success getting Windows 10 updated on it and I missed something from a compatibility perspective or an update perspective that I wasn't actually able to find out there on the internet. And yeah, other than that, thanks again. Hope you're staying safe and healthy, and we'll catch you in the next one.